Hello everyone, I'm Rhonda and welcome to a new video. We are heading into September, but because we are going into a new month, that means it's time for me to go over all of the books that I read in the month of August. For the month of August, I had, you know what, it started off good. My reading started off great. Probably until a little past the midway point, I was reading just amazing books. I was giving a bunch of 4 stars. I had a 3 5-star reads, and then after the halfway mark, my reading journey took a nosedive. Everything I was picking up just was not hitting. I was just not enjoying. I was giving a lot of 3 stars, a lot of 2 stars. I had some DNFs. So we'll just say my August reading started off strong. I was loving everything, and then by the end of the month, it kind of put me into probably the worst book slump I've ever been in, just because I was not loving the books I was picking up. For August, I did read, we're gonna say 21 books. I've officially attempted to read 19. I am currently reading 2 books, and the day that I'm filming this is Saturday the 30th, and I think I should finish both of these before tomorrow night. And the books I'm currently reading are Run for the Hills by Kevin Wilson. I'm enjoying this one. I think this is definitely more of like maybe more like a general fiction. So this one is about 2 half-siblings who find each other, and they go on this road trip to locate their dad, and along the way they find more siblings along the way, and they just take this journey together. This is supposed to be funny. I think it's going to be a little bit heartwarming. It might make me cry. I'm assuming it's going to make me cry because all books do, but I am enjoying this one. I just started it. I'm only like 50 something pages in, but this is less than, I think, 250 pages, so I think I will definitely be able to finish this before tomorrow. And then I am more than halfway through Immortal Consequences. This is your YA Gothic romantasy. This is your dark academia fantasy. This is about an academy that is in the middle of purgatory, and the students that make up this academy are dead. And they're kind of like, I guess, soul reapers right now, but they're really learning how to harness their magic and control their magic and use their magic. And apparently once a year there is something called a decennial, where one person is chosen to complete this decennial, and once they complete it, they move into the Ascended, which is kind of like a graduate. But this current year, instead of that one person, 12 people are picked, and they are competing for this one spot. And we're following the POV of 6 characters, and I am enjoying this. Right now I'm thinking it's like a 3.5 star. And it's interesting. It reminds me a little bit of Harry Potter, just because you're in this academic setting, you're learning about your magic. And then whenever you first arrive to the school, you're kind of sorted into not really a house, but more of a dormitory. So that's why it's giving me a little bit of Harry Potter feels. I don't know. But these are the 2 books I'm reading. I will leave a little blurb here on the screen and let you know what my final ratings are for both of these books. But next up, let's get into my TBR that I picked for August. Here on the screen, you will see that I picked 6 books, and I did a pretty good job. I read 5 out of those 6 books. The one book I did not read is Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and I did actually start this book. You can see I'm about a quarter of the way through. I picked this one up when I was in that book slump, and I did a soft DNF on it, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I wasn't interested in it, and I feel like it was because I was slumping pretty hard, and I just needed to take a day off from reading, and instead of picking this one right back up, I try to read something different. But this will be finished in September. I guess let's go ahead and get into all the books that I read. If you've watched any of my wrap-up videos, then you know I like to go over the books in the order that I read them. And that means we're going to start off with a Throne of Glass recap. So last month I read Empire of Storms, loved it. It had quite the cliffhanger. It really destroyed me. And so I immediately picked up Tower of Dawn. I have to say that this was probably my least favorite. I gave this one 3 stars. I just felt like I didn't care about some of these characters. I loved our male main character. He is a character we have followed from the beginning, and I really enjoyed his POV and following him, and then also our female main character that we're introduced to in this book. But I didn't really care about the other side characters. I didn't care about this part of the world that he's now in. I didn't care, and so I found myself skimming a lot through this one. I would say you cannot skip this book because Sarah J. Maas dropped some bombshells on you. So not my favorite, 3 stars. So right after I finished Tower of Dawn, I picked up Kingdom of Ash. And this book is like 1 million pages long. Look how thick it is. But this is the very last book in the Throne of Glass series, and it was an epic, epic book, an epic conclusion to an epic series. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. I did have some problems with it. It did feel a little too long. It did feel a little bit repetitive. And there was just a lot of information that I didn't care about. There was a lot of war talk and battle plans. So you would plan for a battle, and then you would have that battle, and then you would see who's hurt and heal, and then you would start planning for the next battle, and it would just repeat itself. And I don't care about battle plans. I find that boring. So I didn't like that part of the book. And like I said, it was very repetitive. But overall, I love the conclusion that we got to a lot of our main characters. This was a heartbreaking book to read. I cried several times in this book, and this one picked up right where Empire of Storms left off, and this book just made me angry, but you're supposed to be angry. It just made me feel all of the female rage, and it was such a good book. And I like the way the author just really concluded things with some of our side characters. I feel like she did a great job of just bringing everything full circle and just ending the series in the perfect way. So love Kingdom of Ash, and I would say, if you're going to ask me if Throne of Glass is worth a read, I would say yes. Yes, it is. It was so good. I really enjoyed it, and I would absolutely recommend it if you are interested in reading that. And we're going into fall, so if you're interested in reading the Throne of Glass series, I think the fall time is the perfect time to read it. Okay, the next book I picked up it's kind of like a gothic psychological domestic thriller, and that is We Live Here Now by Sarah Penbrough. I actually talked about this book when I did my fall reading recommendation video, and if you have not gotten your hands on this book, definitely read it, and the fall is the perfect time. This is about a married couple whose marriage is not in the best spot right now, and our female main character was in an accident that almost killed her. So her and her husband buy this house in the English countryside, and they go there so that she can recover both physically and mentally. And that house is haunted, or at least it's haunted to our female main character, and she feels like this house is trying to tell her something, and so she's trying to figure out what's going on. This book was creepy. Oh my God, it was so creepy. But the reason why I love this so much, and the reason why I would recommend this to some of you, is because I got Edgar Allan Poe vibes. If you love the work of Edgar Allan Poe, read this book, because, and I said this in this previous video, but I feel like she took nuggets and themes of some of his most popular work and just sprinkled it masterfully. It was just so well done, and I love this. I gave it 4 stars, but I'm wondering if this is a 5-star read. Should I change it? You know what? Hold on. I'm going to change my Goodreads. I'm going to change my Goodreads rating on this and give it 5 stars. On Goodreads right now, it has a 3.74 rating, and I think that's pretty low. This was a solid thriller. And like I said, if you are a Poe fan, you would probably enjoy this even more. So I forgot to tell you guys, but now counting We Live Here Now, I have a total of 4 5-star reads in the month of August. And then I think I had 2 2-star reads and 2 DNFs. Forgot to tell you guys that. But the next book I read, it was another thriller. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I was sick of summery romances. I just was done with the beachy reads. But I read another thriller called What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. I have read one other book by this author called A Killing Cold. That is her new release for the year, and I enjoyed that one, but I definitely love this one more. So this book is about 3 friends who, when they were kids, or when they were 11 years old, they used to play in the woods in the summer, and one afternoon something pretty tragic and life-changing happens to them. And so now it's present day, and they reunite in their hometown. And as I start looking into their past and what happened that afternoon many years ago, you know, some truths start coming out, some secrets are revealed, and that's all you need to know. I flew through this book in one afternoon. It was so well written, it was so twisty, and it just hooked me from the very beginning. I did guess a couple of the twists early on, but there were some other ones that I did not see coming. And if you're hunting for a solid last-minute summer thriller, this is a good one to pick up. I really enjoyed it, and again, I gave it 4 stars. So good. Next book I read is Friends to Lovers by Sally Blakely. This is I think a debut novel, and this is going to be one of your summery beachy reads. But this is about 2 friends who, through the course of their life, they grew up together and they've always been best friends. And they end up moving to different parts of the country, and weddings have always played a pivotal point in their friendship. So they decide while they're apart, they will reconnect every wedding season and be each other's +1 at these weddings. Well, at one of the weddings, something happens, you don't know what, and so they stop talking for a number of years, and they end up having to go back home to, I think, our main character's family's beach house, because one of his friends and her sister are getting married, and they need to, I remember they needed to pretend that they were still friends or something. But this is told in a then and now timeline, so you're following these two people as they go through each of the wedding, and then you slowly figure out what happened to them. This did remind me a little bit of People We Meet on Vacation. It has a very similar setup, but that's really the only time that it reminded me of that. But I felt like this was a good, solid debut. It definitely was a good, feel-good story. I love the pining and the yearning that we felt in this book. Having said that, what I really did not like about this was it wasn't just miscommunication, it was a complete lack of communication. This is a situation where if they were to sit down and have a chat, things would have been fine. But I know you need to have a conflict in this book, and with that being the conflict, I did not like it. So I think that's why I gave it 3 stars. Still, this was a sweet and summery feel-good story, and it was a solid 3-star read. All right, these next 5 books I'm about to go over are books that I read in a reading vlog where I did a 24-hour readathon, and I read 5 books. I will link it in the eye and down in the description in case you missed it. The very first book that I picked up is This Is Not a Game by Kelly Mullen, and I love this cover with the martini glass and the skull and the key and the blood. Love it. But that is the only thing I loved about this book. I ended up giving it 2 stars. This is going to be your classic whodunit type mystery. This is about a grandmother and a granddaughter who go to this manor house party on Mackinac Island, and then the hostess of the party is murdered. Well, there is this storm that's coming into the island, and the police can't get there. They can't get off the island. So really, this is going to be kind of your locked door murder mystery. And the grandmother and the granddaughter end up working together to try and solve what happened to the hostess. And I think what I did not like most about this was I did not connect with the writing, and then finally I did not like the relationship between the grandmother and the granddaughter. I felt like it was just kind of surface level and one-dimensional. It kind of read kind of cliche. There was something about their relationship that read very dry, and that's really why I didn't like this. So this one got 2 stars. And then the next book I picked up was The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. I think this is her 2nd novel. She had one come out last year, but this is going to be your investigative crime thriller. This book is about Nicole, and I think her name is Jenna, and both of them had sisters about 7 or 10 years ago who disappeared in a very similar fashion. They also disappeared around the same time. So Jenna contacts Nicole, and she has come across some information, and she thinks they should work together to try to figure out what happened with their sister's disappearance. I would say I enjoyed 85% of this book. I was thinking it was going to be a 4-star read. I found the writing very, very good. It hooked me. I was interested. I really loved the friendship that was forming between Jenna and Nicole. It almost felt like a sisterhood. They were really bonding over what happened to both of them in their lives. And then the first plot twist happened, and I loved that. I was thinking, you know what, this is going to be a 4-star read for sure, at least a 4-star read. And then the last 20% happened, and it went down the drain so quickly, and I hated the way this ended. So I would say like the last 20% was like a 2-star read, and then the first 80% was a 4-star read, and I just kind of met in the middle, and overall I gave this one 3 stars. Then I read Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This is the 4th and final book in the Rebel Blue series. This is going to be your small town cowboy romance. In this book we're following Camille, who we've met in the previous 3 books, and Dusty. And Camille, in the beginning of the book, Camille is about to get married, but she gets left at the altar, and so she goes to Meadowlark, and she finds her footing in Meadowlark, gets a house with her son, and starts living her life there. And she starts reconnecting with Dusty, who is her best friend, and they had something going on when they were in high school. And what I love most about this book is it is told a little bit between a then and now timeline. You're getting chapters where you see them meet in high school for the first time and see how their friendship develops and how that something more develops. And you also find out what happened to their friendship and why they stopped being with each other. And I thought those scenes were so sweet. I thought the yearning, I mean, this is definitely a he fell first type book, and I could feel that yearning that he had for her, and I felt just the love that they had for each other. But overall, I gave this one 3 stars. It was really cute. I think most of the books in the series I gave 3 stars, with the exception of Lost in Lasso. That one is my favorite. I gave that one 4 stars. But I thought this was a solid conclusion to that cowboy romance series. And I would say if you've read the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver, then you would probably enjoy this one too. But 3-star read. The next book I read was another 5-star read, and that is The Night Swim by Megan Golden. So this one is going to be another one of your crime investigative type mystery thrillers. In this book we are following, I think her name is Rachel, and she is a podcast, and she goes to North Carolina, and she's there to cover the trial of this guy who's on trial for raping a 16-year-old girl. So she's covering that trial, but soon after she arrives, she gets a note on her windshield by a girl named Hannah, who says that her sister died 20 years ago and her death was ruled an accidental drowning, but she thinks something more sinister happens, and she would like Rachel to also look into her sister's death while she's in town. So you're getting a couple of different plot points. You're also following the POV of Hannah, who is the girl that wrote the letter, as well as Rachel. But then you're also getting a snippet of the podcast, which I really love that because it really raised some very interesting questions when it comes to what constitutes consent and what constitutes sexual assault. But this was such a good book. This is a hard-hitting book because it's dealing with such serious topics. It definitely made me, there were scenes in this book that really hit me hard and made me cry. And this was just a phenomenal book when it comes to that type of content, and I would definitely recommend it. This is not a book that you should take to the beach or to the pool. The content in this book was just very difficult to read, but love this. I thought it was well done, and I gave it 5 stars. Okay, the very last book that I read in that 24-hour challenge is What Not to Do on Vacation by Rachel McGee. And I have not heard anyone talk about this little gem, but this was my other 5-star read for the month. And I did not see that 5 stars coming. I thought this would be a 3-star read just because that's how some of these seasonal little romances are. But I love this one. This is about 3 sisters who, when they were a little bit younger, their parents got divorced, and since then they've just kind of been drifting apart from each other. They don't have the same relationship. They don't connect the way they used to. And the oldest sister decides that she wants to reconnect with her 2 sisters, and so she rents a beach house on the coast of Florida, like in the Panhandle, and it's the same beach house they used to go to as kids when their parents were still married. This is being told through the POVs of all 3 sisters as well as some other person, and this is definitely more of like a women's fiction with side plot of a romance, or a couple of side plots of romance. This is not going to be a 5-star read for everyone. In fact, on Goodreads it has a 3.88 rating, and I think the reason why I gave it 5 stars is because I connected so much with each of the sisters in some way at some point in my life. Overall, I laughed and I cried, and this was so good. The writing, the dialogue in this book is very snappy and witty and funny. It reminded me a lot of Catherine Sinner or Courtney Walsh books, so I think if you like those 2 authors, then you would like this one. But if you're looking for that last summery, beachy women's fiction with a side plot of romance book, definitely pick up What Not to Do on Vacation. This was so cute. The next book I picked up is a YA mystery thriller called The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, and I gave this one 4 stars. In this book, we're following Bella and her family, and at the beginning of the book, a man has come to town and his production crew because they're going to do a documentary on the disappearance of Bella's mom, and she's been gone for the last 16 years. Well, in the middle of this documentary, a woman shows up at her door and says she is her mom, Rachel Price. But Bella feels like something is off. Some of the things she's saying just doesn't add up, and she doesn't think this Rachel Price person is who she says she is. And that's all I'm going to tell you. I went into this one pretty blindly, and I love this book. Once I started reading it, I could not put it down. I think I read it in like a day or 2. It was such a fast-paced read. It was also super twisty. Every time I thought I figured something out, a new reveal would happen, and I would realize I'm wrong, and I was like, wait, where is this going? But this one was just so good, and it was definitely a page turner, and I would absolutely recommend it if you're looking for that last summery, fast-paced mystery thriller. The next book that I read is Summer in the City by Alex Astor, and I love this book. I thought it was so cute. I gave this one 4 stars. This book is actually a little bit difficult to explain, but this is about Elle and Parker, Elle is a screenwriter and Parker is like a billionaire tech guru, tech person. I don't know how to explain his career, but he started this tech company and it's worth billions now. Anyway, 2 years ago, they had this steamy encounter at some tech party at this club. During that encounter, Parker actually insults Elle, and so he ends up on her you-know-what list. Soon after that, she actually leaves New York City to move to, I think, LA to continue her screenwriter career. Well, she's back 2 years later because she needs to house sit her sister's apartment before she moves in. And who lives just next door but Parker? He ends up talking her into having this fake relationship so that his business acquisition would go through. So that is what this book is about. And this was so cute. This is definitely a rom-com that is a love letter to New York City. I loved how they just went through the city during the summertime and did things together. I don't normally enjoy billionaire romances or hockey romances for that matter. I feel like they're a dime a dozen and I just don't always pick them up, but I thought this was such a cute one. But I think why I love this one more than most people did is because I definitely related to Elle. She is definitely a homebody, introverted. She doesn't like to exercise and she's just kind of quirky and I loved her. She was funny without meaning to be. I loved Elle. Then let's talk about Parker. Parker was also very swoony and I loved his little acts of service and the way he showed that he cared to her. Their banter and their chemistry was just very well written and I love this one and I gave it 4 stars. If you're looking for a rom-com that's cute and funny and has some heart, then I would recommend this one. It was adorable. Loved it. Okay, you know how earlier in the video I said that during the latter part of August I went into kind of a reading book slump? Well, this is the part of the month I'm talking about, and I really don't want to talk about this book because it's one of the books that one of you guys recommended, and in fact, when I did my book haul where this book was included in, some of you commented about how much you enjoyed this book. But sadly, I did not love it like you guys did. I gave it 3 stars, and that is A Little Ray of Sunshine. Oh, I don't want to talk about this. But this one is by Kristen Higgins. And before I get into this is going to happen. Sometimes you guys are going to recommend books and I don't connect with it the same way you do. As you know, reading is subjective. Sometimes I'm going to recommend books and I probably have recommended books to you guys. And when you've read it, you're like, Rhonda, this is a terrible book. Why did you give this 5 stars or 4 stars? This was not good. It's going to happen. So just keep sending me your recommendations. I love getting recommendations from you guys. And don't let this deter you. But in this book, we're following Harlow, and she owns this bookshop with her family. And one day while she's in the bookshop, this 17-year-old kid shows up and says that he is the son that she gave up for adoption when he was a baby. And that is true. When Harlow was a freshman in college, she was secretly pregnant and she secretly gave this baby up for adoption right after she gave birth to him. And the couple that she gave this baby to, the names are Monica and I can't remember his name. I want to say it's Sanji. I could be wrong. But we're getting the POV of Harlow, Monica, which is the woman who adopted the baby, as well as Cynthia, is the adopted cousin of Harlow. So you're kind of getting a full circle story, and I love that. You're getting the POV of someone who experienced giving a baby up for adoption and what that did to her throughout her life and how she handled going through life without that child. You're also getting the POV of a woman who adopted a baby and raised it as her own, and her misgivings and fears of this now adult kid who's wanting to reconnect with his birth mother. And then you're getting the POV of someone who who is a product of an adoption. So you're getting this full circle POV of that experience. And I love that. I love the idea of this book and how it was set up, but the experience and how we're getting through that full circle moment just did not connect with me. Right off the bat, I did not like Cynthia. She was an entitled, terrible person. She does have a little bit of a redemption arc, and I was happy about that, but overall, I hated her POV. I also struggled with Harlow and some of the choices she makes as an adult. I didn't find them, I mean, as adults, we're going to make terrible decisions. Doesn't matter how old you are. I really just did not like some of those decisions. There's also a little bit of a romance in this book that I felt like was unnecessary and awkward, so I didn't love that. My biggest issue was the writing. It was some of the dialogue I was reading and some of just the writing in general just kind of made me cringe. and I didn't connect with the writing. So didn't love this one. I didn't hate it, but it just didn't connect with me the way I thought it would. But I love the idea of this one, and I do want to read more from Kristen Higgins. So if there's some other books that you think I might enjoy more than this one, definitely let me know in the comments which one I should read next. But sadly, this was a miss. Okay, the next book in my book slump that I read, and I hate to include this author in this because she's one of my favorite authors, and that is The Lost Husband by Katherine Center. In her defense, I think this is her second ever published book, and you can definitely see her journey as a writer. I mean, in this book, you're still dealing with quirky characters and some funny, snappy dialogue, but there's just something to be said about the writing and how I can't even explain her writing, but it's different. This is definitely more of a women's fiction with a little subplot of a romance. But in this book, we're following Libby, whose husband dies in a car accident, and she spends the next 2 years with her young children at her mom's condo, just trying to get her life back in line with her children. She gets a letter from her aunt saying, hey, I heard you're living with your awful mom, and believe me, her mom is actually terrible. Did not like her mom, but you're not supposed to. But she says, you know, you're living there with your mom. I need help at my goat farm in the Texas Hill Country. Why don't you and the kids move to my goat farm and help me out, because I can't do a lot of the things I need to do on this farm. So Libby packs up her kids and she moves to this goat farm with her aunt, and whenever she gets there, she meets some of the town people. She meets the grumpy, he's kind of like a farm hand, and that kind of helps out her aunt, and there's a little bit of an attraction that kind of forms there. But really, this is a book about starting over. This is a book about finding your roots, and this is a book about secrets. Overall, this was a cute book. It's Katherine Center. I'm going to enjoy them. The writing just isn't what I'm used to when I pick up a Katherine Center book. So I give it 3 stars. It was fine. Liked it. Didn't love it. The next book I read is Recipe for a Charmed Life by Rachel Linden. This is the same author who wrote one of my favorite books that I read last year called The Magic of Lemon Drop Pie. She writes women's fiction that has magical realism. There's a little bit of a side plot of romance. And I was expecting this one to be another 5-star read, and sadly, that did not happen. I gave this one 2 stars, which I'm shocked. I'm completely shocked that I didn't love this one. But in this book, we are following Georgia, who is an American chef living and working in Paris, and she is up for a promotion. Well, unfortunately, she loses her sense of taste, and she ends up sabotaging her career and walking out on her job. So she's really at a low point, and when she gets home, she finds that she has an email from a mother who abandoned her when she was 5 years old, asking her to come to the Pacific Northwest and come stay with her for a few weeks and reconnect, and she has information that's going to change her life. This one just did not work for me. I think this had to do more with the mother who abandoned a 5-year-old child. And then that child, who's now an adult, just immediately packs her stuff up and then goes to her mother, and they have a relationship like nothing happened. And I would be like, I have questions. You know what I mean? I would not be able to just immediately go to a parent who left me and wasn't there for me and just act like nothing happened and just resume a parent-daughter relationship. No, it wouldn't happen. I would have serious issues with that. So that was my major problem with this, was just the plot of this book. I did love the idea that she lost her sense of taste, and as a chef, she obviously needs that in order to have a successful career. And I loved learning about why and how she gets that part was interesting, the magical realism part. I think overall, I did not like the plot. I couldn't connect with the characters. I didn't really like some of the characters. And then also too, it was a little bit cheesy because Georgia has conversations with Julia Child in her head, and I thought that was just cheesy and unnecessary. I thought that was weird. I don't know. I didn't like this. Around the halfway mark, I just started skimming and wanting it to be over. So this is a book I probably should have DNF'd. I'm glad I finished it. I'm glad I got it off my physical TBR shelves, but this is definitely not a favorite of mine from this author. But if you're interested in books that have magical realism, that are more women's fiction with a touch of romance, I would definitely recommend The Magic of Lemon Drop Pie. This author does have a new book coming out in September. I do have an ebook arc of that. Cannot wait to read it. I've heard good things so far, but this one was a big disappointment. All right, so in the middle of this little reading slump, I did have a 4-star read, and that is the second book in the Seaside Cafe mystery series by Bree Baker called No Tea Goes Unfinished. I read the first book called Live and Let Chai a few months ago. I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 4 stars. But these 2 books follow the same characters in the same coastal town. They follow Everly, who owns this little coastal tea shop where she sells these flavored teas and little finger food type lunches. And they're just really cute, and they give you these beachy settings that put you in the summer mood. But with No Good Tea Goes Unpunished, we're following Everly, and she is actually the caterer of a friend of hers who is getting married there at this coastal town. I think it's in the Outer Banks. But right after the wedding, during the reception, the groom is murdered, and also too, someone is actually coming after Everly. So they're trying to figure out the mystery of who killed the groom and who is coming after Everly. I'm loving this entire series. It is so cute. I'm loving the mystery. I feel like the story and the plot is very well developed, and it's really not that predictable. So I'm loving that. I like the characters. The detective in this is a little swoony, a little dreamy, but Everly, I love her. She is quirky. I just feel like with these 2 books, especially the one I read this month, the mystery had me guessing until the end. But if you've been interested in trying a cozy mystery like I have, then I would recommend this series. The 3rd book, I think, is set during Christmas time, so I'll probably read that during the holiday season, but I'm definitely going to continue with this series, and this one was a 4-star read. Loved it. The next book I read is an ebook arc that I got through NetGalley called Ship of Dreams by Donna Jones Alward. This is going to be kind of a historical fiction about 2 friends who take the maiden voyage from England to New York on the Titanic. Sounds amazing. Unfortunately, this is my other 2-star read. Did not like it, no. So as I said, this is about 2 friends who go on this journey on the Titanic. One of the friends is actually married, and her husband, I think his name is Charles, he is coming on board too. Their marriage is strained. Something tragic happened, and their relationship has not been the same. And so she's hoping that through this transatlantic voyage that she can have a second honeymoon and connect with her husband again. And then the friend is just there for a good time. She's just there to experience this thing and just enjoy herself. So this is a book about friendship. It's about reconnecting with your partner, and obviously it is a book about tragedy. I did not love the writing. Even though this is an adult historical fiction, it read very young, almost YA-like. But I think what I really didn't like about this book is how the author handled certain situations. I feel like it was the way that the author wrote some of these little tiny fragments of moments that really pissed me off and frustrated me, and it just, I didn't like the writing to begin with, but I just really didn't like where she went. Also too, it's just how these characters are handling. This just was not a good book in my opinion. Did not love it. I gave it 2 stars. These last 2 books that I attempted to read in August are DNFs. This is where that reading slump just really was slumping. And the first one is A Rip Through Time by Kelly Armstrong. This is your, it's kind of like a murder mystery, but it's a time travel book. I was expecting to enjoy this one just because the synopsis sounded like something I would love. This book is about a woman who is attacked and left for dead. And when she wakes up, she is in the body of a 19th century housemaid. This housemaid has also been attacked, and she feels like their attacks are connected. And so through this body of this housemaid, she's trying to figure out what happened to her. And really that's what this book is about. I did not get very far. I got about 30% through this before I DNF'd it. I think I was just bored. It was a lot of early 19th century detective history. It just read boring to me, and I couldn't continue with it. I wasn't reaching for it, and because I was already slumping, I didn't want to keep reading a book I was not enjoying. So I DNF'd it. And at this point, I was like, you know what? The last time I was in a reading slump, I read an Elsie Silver book, and that pulled me right out of that slump. And so I picked up Wild Side, and you can see how far I got. DNF this one. It did not help. So this is book 3 in the Rose Hill series. And for the most part, I have really enjoyed the series, but this one just didn't do anything for me. I think this is probably the raunchiest and more graphic, vocally at least, of Elsie Silver's books that I've read. This is about Tabitha, and her sister has a substance abuse problem. She ends up dying, and her sister ends up leaving custody of the son to her landlord, and his name is Reese. He is actually an American here in this Canadian small town, and he is actually a wrestler. They are actually kind of butting heads over who's taking custody of this child because she is family, he is not. This is going to be a book about hate to love. This is also a marriage at convenience. I thought this one was pretty terrible. I think for the most part, some of it has to do with the fact that Reese is a wrestler. Think like a WWE or WWF. I'm not sure what they're called anymore. I don't like wrestling, and I think it is probably the most unsexy sport around. And I think that's why I really didn't like some of this. I think more than anything, I did not like how just foul and raunchy this book is. And we didn't even get to the bedroom scenes. This was just how they were acting to each other. There is banter, but it's not good banter. It's dropping just F-bomb after F-bomb. Their idea of banter is telling each other how and where they're going to bang each other. And I don't like that kind of banter. It was just, all it was lust. I just did not like the writing at all, and all of the innuendos and references, and not my favorite from Elsie Silver. So it's always a challenge to lift these books, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to lift this. It's pretty heavy, and it's kind of like a big tower of books. But all right, my friends, these are the 21 books that I read in the month of August. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments what you read in the month of August and what were your favorite books. I think that my favorites, hold on. I think that my favorite books that I just really loved, What Not to Do on Vacation was a favorite, The Night Swim was a favorite, and We Live Here Now was an absolute favorite too. And then also Kingdom of Ash. All those books were my top 5-star reads, and I really enjoyed those. But let me know what yours are. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.